Hey all, so I want to make sure everybody is doing okay right now. First things first, happy Earth Day. It's great that we get to celebrate Earth Day 50 years later, but I think it's also a time of reflection for a lot of us. Um, it's 50 years since we decided to have a day all about the earth and all about conservation and things like environmental justice, environmentalism were to be celebrated. And now that 50 years have passed, it's important for us to look at how far we've come. It's a really good time for us to think about all the things that we have to celebrate because we've done some amazing stuff. But there's also been a lot of things um, that have happened in this country that we're maybe not so proud of. And I think a lot of us wish that we were maybe a little bit further along. So today, what I really want to focus on, though, is talking about the difference between environmental justice and climate justice. So a lot of people think that they're, practically the same thing, and they have a lot of the same core principles. Things like respect for indigenous conceptions of nature. So how we look at nature, what does that mean? Or things that I've talked about in the class before. How do we talk about science? Native cultures have been using science for years and years, but the way that we look at science is a little bit different from our standpoint of Western culture, specifically Anglo-Saxon scientific method. So that's one thing that's very important for both of these. And then also like the importance of self-determination of all peoples. So people having the ability to decide for their own community, for their own group of people, regardless of who they are. And then also the opposition to the role trans and multinational corporations play in the environmental decimation of communities. So those are the things that environmental justice and climate justice have in common. But the thing is that climate justice, it can be defined in a couple different ways, and it's really on how they're discussed. So for instance, in academics, we discuss it as a different idea of justice. So we have environmental justice, which is focused on things like labor. It's focused on things like agriculture. Climate justice, the focus is around climate change and how climate justice is something that's really come to the forefront because how our climate is. And that doesn't just mean climate in terms of the air that we breathe, but also climate resiliency, our community's resilience to the impacts climate change. And then also NGOs, how NGOs describe climate justice. It's very policy focused or legally focused. So climate justice is actually a different form of law, a different form of law that can be used when talking about how to regulate corporations that are polluting. And then activists will use it as a rallying cry around climate change. Climate change is real and people want climate justice for that. Both of them are now at a local and global level in a way that we haven't seen in a long time. And that's because of the impacts that we're seeing on the world. And this is why it's important for us to reflect on Earth Day 50 years later. How much progress have we made? But what else is there for us to work on? If anybody has any questions about that, anything at all, please let me know. And also know that I'm still here if you need anything else in terms of things related to COVID-19. My number is 253-203-4991. And my email is epp5@humboldt.edu. That's HUMBOLDT.edu. And go ahead, just reach out to me and just want to make sure that you're all doing all right and that you're doing okay. Stay safe.